I did the layout while they were square, before there were any dados or beads put in there, because it's easy to clamp the two pieces together. It's easy to transfer marks all the way around the edges. Once that bead gets in place, it's really difficult to transfer a mark from the face, let's say, down to the front or the back. So do the layout first. Make sure you understand how the mortise and tenon is going to go together. Get your lines scribed in, and then go ahead and mill the surface. Now, at this point, we're ready to cut mortises and tenons. And I'm not really even going to show it. It's the way that I do it is pretty easy. I'm going to grab a piece that I've labeled here. Thought I had one of these labeled. Yeah, here we go. So the way I do these is I go over to the bandsaw and I set my bandsaw fence so that I can just rip right in along this line. Make sure you stay on the outside edge with the bandsaw. And then I'll come back with my tenon saw and cut across near my scribe line on both sides. And basically what will be left is the tenon. I'll have to cut the tenon down and knock off this piece, but that's pretty easy. And I'll demonstrate that. There are so many ways, though, so many methods for removing this material. You can clamp it in your vise and use a tenon saw and cut down each side. That works great. You can nibble it away with a table saw, and there's machines for it. There's just all sorts of ways to do this. Use whatever you prefer. So I'm not going to demonstrate sawing those pieces off, but I will using the tenon saw to cut the cheeks. On the mortises, I will take these to a drill press and I will drill out the majority of the mortise, and I'll come at it from both sides, from the top and from the back, top and bottom, and drill these out, and then I'll clamp it in my bench and use a bench chisel to fair them up and get them to be nice and uniform from front to back, and then start fitting the tenon in there. So you'll see that as I progress, but that's a real quick overview of how I do it. Again, I'm not advocating that my method is the best, it's just one that I'm comfortable with. Okay, so I just got back from the bandsaw. Here you can see I've made the bandsaw cuts to different depths on both ends. And now I'll take my tenon saw and just register next to that line. I won't be right on the scribe line that we marked, but really close to it. I'll probably clean this up with the shoulder plane. Go through here. There's one. Be a little bit careful clamping this one because of that bead on the other side. There we go. So what we're left with then is our tenon. And what's left to do is to cut out part of this tenon that will go to the outside of the, so I'll do this way, that will go to the outside of the stile. Because again, like we said before, that mortise can't come all the way to the top, or we'd have nothing more than just a tuning fork that the tenon would slip into. And we don't want that. We want that mortise supported on all four sides. So you want to lay your piece up here, mark where the wall of the mortise is, and then cut out that part of the tenon. One thing I neglected to mention for the layout of these mortises is that the top and the bottom rails are not the same width. The bottom is wider than the top. You'll see that. So remember when you're laying out for the mortises to use two different total rail widths. The bottom mortise then will be a little bit wider than the top one as a result. Just remember that as you're going through it. Now you can drill these out freehand if you want. I use a drill press with a fence on it, but nothing wrong with doing it freehand. chop out these mortises, and I will start by taking my bench chisel and just registering it in the line that we scribed. I'll bang down on both sides. Just like the dovetails, just register that chisel right in that line. And take a mortise chisel and stay back, so you've got these marks here and here kind of defining the width of the mortise. Stay probably back an eighth to even a quarter of an inch away from those marks to begin with, because you'll end up doing some prying and really damage those shoulders or damage those edges if you start right on those lines. So I'm going to just get rid of some of the waste now. This is where I'll pry a little bit. Be careful when you lift the chisel up, because oftentimes you can break out this wall, and this is the really visible face. This is the the outside edge. You want to make sure that that's nice and crisp. Just be real careful to have that chisel centered in there. Gradually lift the waste out. Alright. Repeat the same thing on the other side. Here, protecting those walls isn't quite as big of a deal because it won't be seen. Yeah, I'll chop down again. So just repeat this process now until you break through to the other side. There, I'm through. Through. Alright, I'll take a little smaller bench chisel and get rid of any waste in there. Now I'll come back with my wider one I started with. Let's make sure those walls are nice and straight. And my mortise chisel now all the way to my scribe line. I'll mark that, register that chisel right in the line. I'll go as straight down as I can.